Well, hello everybody, and welcome. Today is going to be an interesting day. I have a topic that I think is going to be a little bit fun, a little bit weird, little I don't know, maybe conspiratorial. Would be fun, wouldn't it? See what we got going on. But today I'm looking to convince you that you're a cyborg, and I also want to talk a little bit about why maybe you should care. So first, what is a cyborg? Well, we all know from sci-fi or whatever, we got the Terminator. It's a cybernetic life form, right? Like it's a life form that is integrated with technology in such a way that it is greater than the technology or the organism might be on its own. We definitely have a sure version of this we've cooked up. People have done it in a laboratory where they've put probes into the brain of mice and literally created remote control minds. Now, if you're a lover of life, I'm sorry, I just had to tell you that. Maybe I should have given you a warning first. I apologize there. I love life, and I wrestle a lot with the way we do human testing, but it is what it is. I'm not in charge of the rules, so I don't make the rules. However, it's a thing that we do. So we have cyborg capacity. As a matter of fact, there is at least one unquestionable cyborg person on this planet. There's a gentleman who had a chip implanted into his brain, and it is now known that he can, in fact, control a computer cursor to do various tasks, play games, type, and communicate. And he can do this with his mind. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if he can move. Like he wouldn't be able to operate a computer without this. And this is real. It exists, and it's been implanted in humans. Um, that to me, unquestionably cyborg. I can now control something outside of my body with thoughts. It, I'm sure that that's a cyborg. Now, depending on what definition you use, I like the definition that allows for an organism that has been enhanced or had functionality altered or restored through the use of technology. So by that definition, I would qualify because I have a plate in my leg, right? Like I broke my ankle, had surgery, they put titanium in there, and now I've got an ankle that works good. My massage therapist even says that my other ankle is worse due to compensating than the ankle that actually had surgery on it. So let that be a lesson to you people. Anybody who's been told to do physical therapy by your doctors, I say do it because one day may have a massage therapist tell you that your the ankle you ignored while you broke the other one and made it real strong with this physical therapy that you were diligently following the rules on, made the broken ankle stronger. Apparently, is my physical therapist, or not my physical therapist, my massage therapist's opinion. I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. That's what happened to me. Uh, so that is a technology. It is implanted in my body. The surgical technique allows it to stay there, and we leave it. We used to have to pull these out, but we've learned a lot about how to craft these materials that our body can handle them long term now, apparently, and that's that. So I've got that going on. But even more than that, uh, I think we are cyborgs. I think right now, you and me are communicating cyborgs because I'm looking at this camera, I'm telling it, and it's transmitting those things. It's saving those things, and then it's recreating those images in other parts of the world where other people can hear and see me, wherever they may be. And I don't have that ability. I don't have the ability to communicate with you over an ocean without technology. So that is an enhancement to my capacity. It's something I cannot do without it. And I argue that that makes us cyborgs. And again, I understand we can quibble about the definition of cyborg, but the point is that we have reached a point in society in Western civilized society where we are dependent upon our technology. I can't go somewhere without having my GPS running. I don't know where anywhere is anymore because I haven't had to keep track of it. So I haven't bothered. I don't know anybody's phone number. When I was a kid, I could tell you all my friends' numbers from when I was like 9 years old. I could tell you the kids down the street. I still remember them to this day. I couldn't tell you the number of the person I live with. I don't know their phone number because my cyborg parts have it, and my cyborg parts share it, and I can access any one of those cyborg parts and get it whenever I want, and I can use it. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It just is. Um, but there's more. I can't go to the store without my shopping list, which I keep in my phone, that is shared through document sharing through all of my devices. Have all of my shopping list, so I can be sitting at my computer, type my shopping list. It'll be there on my phone later. Uh, and I wouldn't be able to function without any of that. Uh, would I die without the technology? I'd be lost. I wouldn't know where I was. I'd have to start over from square one, figuring everything out because I moved since I became a cyborg, and I literally don't know anything. I've been living where I'm living for a few years now, and I I literally just don't know the area that well. I know maybe 4 to 6 blocks in each direction, and beyond that, I'm lost, and that's all I've really learned because I haven't had to. I turn on the GPS, just turn left when it tells me to turn left, turn around when I didn't make the turn because I wasn't in the right lane that it told me to be in, and then it just turns me around. I mean, whatever. It doesn't like I don't even care. I don't even have to make mistakes. I don't have to figure out how to make the mistakes. It'll tell me how to turn around for my mistakes. Like I don't have to face my own mistakes. I let it have responsibility for my driving errors. That's crazy. That's cyborg as shit. Other people who are driving like self-driving cars and shit, like tell me that's not some cyborg shit. Like what? Your car is driving itself. You're moving. You're traveling at a high rate of speed, 60, 70 miles an hour on the interstate, and you're not doing anything. Like I mean, that's I don't know, man. That's I don't know. Maybe that's not cyborg so much, but it's something. Your body's moving and you didn't have to do anything. You just use technology to make your body move. That's crazy. Um, but we definitely have plenty of other cyborg technologies out there. We've got things that help people that are paralyzed. We've got mechanisms that can shock the nerves in the body and cause things to happen. I remember a test when I was having my carpal tunnel surgery done and how it made my muscles jerk as they were testing because they were using electricity to test my nerve damage. And my arm just jerked and whatnot, and that really like that was it was kind of enlightening to me because that was kind of me getting to feel what happens like when electrical signals like make your muscles work. But we do that like people who have like certain kinds of nerve injuries. We can like use shocks to help their leg like work in tandem with either like braces and crutch support type things, or sometimes there are prosthetics that will. Growing up, this was growing up. This was years and years ago. This would have been early '90s. I had a friend. He was born in Chile. He was an orphan from Chile, and when he was a baby, his house burnt down. He was orphaned in Chile. I don't know the whole story of how he got to America, but he was a really good friend of mine, and he was just disfigured. He was obviously burned badly as an infant, and he had his arm only about I don't know a 6 or 8 inch nub coming off of his elbow, and then he had no hand on it was his right arm. So he had his left hand, and it was his right arm that was gone, and he had a prosthetic that he could put on, and it just had these little metal, it looked like coins on the inside of the part, and he would put his nub in there, and the little coins would contact the end of his skin. And he said that all he had to do was think about opening and closing his hand exactly the same that he did with his actual hand. And this hand, now it had a very small range of motion. It was just like this is all it did. But he did that with his mind because these little metal pads were on his arm. That dude was a fucking cyborg. Sorry, it just is. It is. Now, that's not the one he used all the day. He actually had, it was more of a hooking clamp. and it was a harness that went around his back, and I guess he just manipulated his shoulders or something, and that would open and close his, and he just found that more useful on a daily basis. But for, like, for formal stuff, so that he could feel like a normal person who appeared to have a normal looking hand, he'd use that, and he'd wear long sleeves, and sometimes people would notice and whatnot, but he could open and close a hand, with his mind. We have these today. We have wonderful prosthetics technology, and for some things. I mean, I don't know that it's great for everything, but it exists. So we definitely have the technology. Even if you disagree with me that we're currently cyborgs for having our cell phones, depending on it for our information, our searches, our navigation, even if you agree, or even if you disagree with me about that making us cyborgs, I've got to imagine that you agree that some of us are. People that have brain chip implants, people who have prosthetics that are helping them overcome the hardships of injury or trauma, or just, other brokenness in our body. I mean, I'd even argue that a wheelchair is cyborg technology. It is technology that you need to move. You wouldn't, like, these people wouldn't really be mobile and be able to get around without that. But so I hope we could agree that some people are cyborgs, and I think as time goes on, we're going to have more and more opportunity to become more and more cybernetic. I think we're just moving in that direction. We like technology. We like making things easier. And if I can get a brain implant that's going to make me be able to control the computer, like, that is on the other side of the room, I don't have to get up and I just control my computer and do whatever in my house. Or maybe a chip like that, like I could control like a smart house with that. I just walk into my house and the lights turn on because I willed it to. Like, we're going that direction. There are people that would sign up for that today. There are people that have the money, they're just bored and they got nothing better to do than to put shit in their body so that they can fucking turn on their lights in their house with their mind. I promise you somebody wants that today. It's crazy. I mean, we got at least 8 billion people on this planet. One of them's crazy enough to want that. Like, I don't fuck with my mind. I love my mind. But I don't know. Maybe it's a way to fix the stupid people. I don't know. Can we, like, give them a brain implant and make them smarter? Give them, like, but then would it be organic intelligence, or would it be artificial intelligence? And I don't know. Like, anyway, that's a bigger question that I want to get into. But these problems are real. The ethics of it is real. Should we let somebody implant something into their brain so that they can fucking control their smart house, for example? I mean, among other things. Or drive their car. Like, if you had this chip, anything that was programmed to interface with it, you could control. You'd literally just be able to control anything with your mind. And as somebody who has spent as much time as I have, which is just, trust me, it's embarrassing, trying to move things with their mind, because I can't find physics ruling out telekinesis. I can't pinpoint a reason it should work, but I also can't rule it out. There are mechanisms that exist that I could see causing it to be possible. But if I could just get the chip implanted, I don't have to do that anymore. I'm not going to sit down, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year to go, I wonder if I sit and think about it real hard, I can make something move today. And it's okay. So, embarrassing or not, you want to call me weird or not, you want to call me well, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't know what's real, but the way I stay grounded to truth is I try things even though they seem extreme. I have to explore the ideas for myself. And if I can't dismiss an idea, if I can't rule out an idea, then it's not off the table to continue thinking about. And I'm going to do that. And as much as somebody who wants telekinesis to be so real that I actually try to practice it sometimes, even I wouldn't go through the cyborg way of doing it. And so that begs the question of, should we let people do it? What kind of power might somebody have if they had the ability to do that? If they developed items that could wirelessly interface with a chip in their mind, and they work their mind enough. Like, I don't know what the limits would be. I'm sure it would be something in the limits of the amount of information that the human mind can handle at a given time. I'm sure there would be some limitation. But would they be able to control? Would they be able to drive their car, make an actual phone call with their mind while browsing the internet on like a fucking inner like the inner imagery that we have? Like, how far could a brain chip go? Um, should we allow that to be? Should Will it be dangerous for the people doing it? Should it matter if they did it knowing that we don't know what's going to happen? Should they just be allowed to go, yeah, you want to be the experiment? Nah, it's on you. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't, look, I'm not going to label myself, but I, there is a libertarian idea that I think has merit. Um, why stop somebody from doing something that's hurting somebody else? That's just kind of a libertarian value, right? Um, why should we? Well, I guess we can use this in drugs. Like most libertarians, I think, would say we should just legalize all drugs and let the chips fall where they may. We'd be safer if they were regulated. We'd be safer if they were legal and people could get them through legal supply chains that we could regulate and validate with security measures. And that would be better than me going out to the street thinking I'm just buying a little cocaine and ending up with a bag full of fentanyl that kills me. Now, I've never, well, okay, I've done fentanyl in the hospital, which is why I'm scared of it, because, wow, fear the shit. If you've never messed with it, just fear it. But it's hard for me to argue with why not just allow it to be? Because people who are too dumb to handle their drugs, well, that's a problem that almost solves itself, doesn't it? I mean, that's a little bit cynical, a little bit cruel. But on the other hand, there are plenty of people that are driving out there that shouldn't be driving and they solve the problem themselves. Like, I don't know, like a saying I've said for a big portion of my life, it's probably a little bit cold and cruel. I think it's funny and I'm only about half serious about it. But the reason that the world is so stupid today is because of bicycle helmets and seatbelt laws. Because if we would just let the stupid people do stupid things without safety equipment, they hurt nobody but themselves, and Darwinism wins, natural selection wins. And we've corrupted natural selection by demanding people make themselves safer. Now, don't get me wrong. Children bicycle helmets? Yeah, no problem. Children, that's fine. Children don't have a developed mind. They need to be developed and they need to be taught what the rules are. They need to be taught about things like safety and they need to be forced to accept these concepts until we give them enough time to develop. We are a needy species until we're full grown. We take a long time to grow up as a species. And there is absolutely no reason that's not okay for children, because children do need rules. They need structure and rules and things to help keep them safe, because they don't know they don't know enough about cars to not know run out in the street. They don't know physics. They don't understand that's deadly until we teach them and then remind them, because it's not obvious, because you've never seen a car hit somebody and kill them. So even when you're told that, the brain just doesn't connect it, because, well, that's this thing I've been told, but I've seen 1,000 cars and nobody's killed anybody. And so our mind doesn't want to accept that. And that's especially as true as children, is they're learning. They can absorb everything and they aggregate very, very well. But they still need that structure and order. But not everybody else. Like there's no reason to tell us you have to wear a seatbelt. Why do I, as a driver, drive my own car, have to wear a seatbelt? Now, I do wear a seatbelt. I'm smart enough to understand how safety equipment works, and that's fine. So I'd be here one way or another. I haven't really been in accidents that I think would have killed me. Maybe one, but I see the math. And people who want to go out and be irresponsible, what's the harm in that? Who are they harming by that? If you don't put on a seatbelt, who do you harm when you get in a wreck? It throws you out of the car and and you hit somebody, well, that's not an argument to me, because your tire could fly off the car in an accident. Your tire probably will fly off the car in any number of kinds of accidents you could get in. Parts fly off cars all the time. Doors fly off cars in accidents. I mean, glass shatters and sprays everywhere, and people get, cut all up with glass from wrecks sometimes. Um, and none of those things are going to be changed by a seatbelt. Will there be the freak one in a million where somebody gets thrown from a car and actually that is the only thing that flies out of the car and somebody gets hurt? Okay, but that's not a reasonable thing to actually be that. Just come on, man. It's not what's happening. And so people have a right to not wear a seatbelt if they want. If people want to believe that it's safer to not wear a seatbelt than to, that's fine. I guess I don't care. The information's out there. If they wanted to learn better, that would be their fault. Ignorance is sorry and sadly, but on the individual to an extent. What we're doing with education in society, the way we're pulling back education from our kids and whatnot, that's a form of ignorance that's created by the people in control of government and trying to keep society sustained. But if you went and you got a normal and thorough education like in Europe somewhere where they teach you well, and you decide you don't want to put a seatbelt on, who gives a fuck? You have the choice, you have the education, you have the information. Who gives one flying fuck? I don't understand why we're obsessed with things like seatbelt laws. It's just another thing for the authoritarians to be able to hassle us over. And I feel the same exact way about cyborg parts. If you want to cut off your arm to put on a cyborg arm, look, it's your arm, man. You're the one that's got to deal with that pain. You're the one that's got to explain to your family why you altered yourself. Like, we don't argue about this for piercings. Why do we argue? Why are we arguing about it for brain chips? I mean, and the superpower things that I was talking about earlier, but somebody gets a brain trip and now they have superpowers to drive their car with their mind and whatnot, and it looks like they have superpowers. Well, why shouldn't we stop that? Or isn't that a threat to us as society? Because, well, now you've got somebody with seeming superpowers. Well, everybody has that power. Hear me out. You can go buy parts to put on your car. Mythbusters did this. They bought car parts and servos, put a remote control. They made remote control full size cars. You could build one from the ground up that's remote control, just like an RC car. You could do all kinds of things, but we can make remote control cars. We have drone planes that fucking go out there. Half the time they're fucking fully automated. You just fucking put some GPS in and go. I want you to go bomb this target, and I want you to do it from 35,000 feet, and I want you to do it and be back and land at precisely this time. I want the bombs to blow up at this time. And the drone will do everything. It'll fucking change the speeds, it'll pick the fight class, I don't know, it'll do whatever you want. And how is that different? Just because the chip's in their mind, they could build the technology. They could create a car that is drivable through remote control, effectively the same. Like, it I don't know. It's just not the superpower argument isn't a convincing argument for me. It's the self harm. It's the problem I have is that by making it illegal makes it more dangerous. Like, and in this case, I think so too, because I don't believe that there's a condition where the people putting brain chips in people is going to stop just because the rules say stop. They'll go to a country that'll allow it to happen. They'll do it in secret, underground. They'll start kidnapping people as test subjects. I don't like. Look, that sounds dark, and I'm not saying that Neuralink's out there kidnapping people. I'm saying that there are people, probably not in I don't know, like there are people who do shady things like that do underground testing. There are underground cloning labs around the world that are trying to clone humans. Seriously. There are very unethical people doing very unethical things around the world, and I don't know if anybody else has developed a technology like Neuralink has. But if that technology were to leak, if somebody part of developing the technology took the information and ran and went and got their own investors somewhere, I'm sorry, it could be happening. People could just be getting like brain implants, against their will, because that's a thing people do is they kidnap people to do human testing. That's real. The Nazis did it. The American government did it. There's a lot of Russians do stuff like that. Lots of shady experimenting going on. So I wouldn't put it past the government. I have no reason to believe the government or Neuralink. I don't have any reason to believe anybody's doing anything remotely shady, and I'm not trying to say that they are. I'm just trying to say that bad actors exist, and bad actors have loved to test on humans insane, unethical things for as long as humanity has existed. It's just a thing. Um, and so by making it illegal, we drive these things underground. Whereas if we said, you know what, people want to do it, but don't make claims you can't substantiate. Don't say that it's safe and effective when you're putting it in the third person. You don't know that. Here's what we believe. Here's why we believe it's safe, and here's what we've shown making it effective. But we're cutting open your head and putting parts in there. We don't know what this is going to do to you long term. Could it affect your mental health? Could it cause dementia? Could like informed consent is informed consent. Just at least if we have it legal and people get to choose it and they just want to buy their brain implant, at least if you set it up on the up and up, you at least then have the protections of what we do for protecting business things. If I want to buy a brain chip from you, then I should get to do that knowing everything you know about that brain chip before I do it. And if I sign up or you try to do this to me deceptively, that now we got a problem. That's deception. That's lying. That's deceit. That's really nasty shit. And we don't want any part of that. And so we can curb that with regulation, just like we could with drugs. We could ensure the purity that if you buy a bag that says it's cocaine, you get cocaine and not fentanyl. And there's nobody guaranteeing that in a black market. And that's one of the rules that government should have is simply having the mechanism for enforcement to ensure that business transactions are happening in a reasonably fair way. And that is one of the rules of government. Is enforcing the rules. What are the? I mean, you have to have rule enforcement, or you don't have rules. Um, but then okay, so now we've talked about now about why I think we're cyborgs, why I think we probably overregulate the market for allowing it to go better. Not overregulate, but where we actually draw lines and ethical lines that I'm not sure they're accurate. And I'm not saying my opinion would be popular. Maybe everybody's like, hey, no, we just stop fucking with humans. Don't mess with life. I don't know. That's probably a valid viewpoint. I mean, I'm sure it's probably something that a lot of people who have certain religious beliefs, I'm sure they have all kinds of problems with modifying the body. It's. I forget where I was going with that, but we. So anyway, so there's the are we cyborgs? There's the should we allow cyborgs? And then there's the darker, sinister, conspiratorial sides of cyborgs. Um, One of the things that I think bothers me the most thinking about cyborg type concepts going forward is the fact that there is research indicating that the mind can be influenced by RF waves or radio frequency waves. Um, we we know that we can measure them without being inside the mind, so we can put little electrodes just around the head, like on like a skull cap, and we can measure brain waves, and we have different ways of doing that. We even have this is how EEGs work. Even like EEGs, it's all external, and it can pick up brain waves, and they can detect certain types of brain damage and things with these. It's very fascinating. EEGs we've had for a long time, um, but we're not getting to the point to where we can measure those brain waves more precisely, and we can start making inferences about like a mood somebody might be in. We can make inferences about what might be going on in somebody's mind based on how certain portions of the brain are creating certain waves. There is even research that has shown that we can alter mood by giving feedback RF. So as you got the skull cap on, if it's not only a passive device and it's actually doing something, we found that we can make people agitated, or we can make people impatient, or we can calm people, making them more docile. Do you think there's anybody out there that might have an interest in making certain kinds of people more docile? I mean, this is fascinating technology, because what if we could use this technology in a way, and should we? What if we had the technology to actually keep somebody from being able to experience anger or rage? What if we had that ability? How would that change society? Would we need prisons in the same way that we do? Or would we just be able to impact somebody's mood by making them wear a radio frequency skull cap or getting a brain chip implant? Should we do stuff like that? How invasive is too invasive? I mean, we control people by putting ankle monitors to make sure that they can't go outside. Would that really be any different than requiring them to wear a skull cap that affects their mood? Um, these are all questions as we have these different cyborg technologies, these different ways that we could modify the body. We have to ask ourselves how we could use them, and if we should use them that way. What would happen if we did develop that technology and we could create a high enough radio frequency from like a satellite to beam down and make an entire city docile? Make the entire city have good, warm, fuzzy feelings. Maybe we could impact it to where they're literally having like, I don't know, like who knows what kind of euphoria-inducing things we could do if that technology were ever really fully developed and utilized. How would that change the scale of war? Like you turn on a bunch of drones, go bomb that city, and everybody there is just going to sit and behave as though they don't care what's going on, because they don't have the ability to get enraged about it. They don't have the ability uh, to respond emotionally, because they've been crippled with some kind of radio frequency weapon. I'm not saying any of this is real. I'm saying people think it's real. There are people that think there's an antenna array in Alaska. They think that that's why that antenna array exists, is to mind control groups of people. Um, I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but why would you spend? Oh, I don't know what it was. Some $50 billion. I don't know. 50 million. I don't know. It was a huge project up in Alaska to build hundreds of antennas, multiple megawatts of power. It has like its own power plant facilities to power it. And why? Why do we need that much radio frequency power? I mean, if we were trying to do something like most radio telescopes are passive, I could see I could see an antenna array like that being used like a like a radio telescope. There are ways that could work based on how radio telescopes work, but it would be passive. It wouldn't need that kind of power. You need the power to read how the power is hitting it, not really to do anything. But they turn on the RF, and they feed it into the atmosphere, and they do things to the atmosphere. And they say it does nothing. They say it's interesting and it's science, and it tests what happens if you, I don't know, change the electrical field of the ionosphere. I don't know, they say all kinds of things, and I'm like, but why would you spend that much money to fuck around and tinker with the ionosphere? Like, we don't know anything about that. Well, I mean, what could it possibly be doing that needs that? I mean, there's a lot of other things that people think HAARP is doing. They think it's like weather control or earthquake making, or I don't understand how RF in the sky could make earthquakes either. But there's a lot of things that I don't think connected are. So I'm not going to say I'm right or wrong, or the conspiracy theorists are right or wrong. I don't know. I'm just telling you things people say. But I don't really have any reason to believe anything particularly sinister is going on, other than it bothers me that much money was spent to fucking shoot radio waves in the air. Like, it's just like the biggest ham telescope in the world, or the ham radio in the world. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know, but we're humans. We like just spending a lot of money to build the biggest that's ever been, and so sometimes that's all it is. Just like, hey, I want to build the biggest radio, and that's it. I don't know. People are crazy. Our need to build bigger and fuck with more shit that we don't understand is it's just we're insatiable. We can't like the one thing that I anyway. I don't need to go down that road. We're talking about cyborgs, and we're talking about how technology can be turned on us, and how what are we gonna do? Like, do you understand technology enough to understand how or why like some of this might impact you if if these things were coming, if they were real? I mean, I don't know. It's it's a wild topic to think about, but I think it's a thing we're gonna need to be dealing with. I think because we already have the problems, right? Like there are very real problems of this transformation going on. We have last year the Merriam-Webster dictionary told us that brain rot was the word of the year. Um, Intelligence in the United States. And I've seen evidence that it's not just the U.S. around the world. Since about the beginning of COVID, there does seem to be a decline in intelligence compared to what there was. And what happened? We got lonely, we got isolated, we were told we couldn't do all the things that we loved, so we sat at home and, I don't know, watched skibbity toilet videos, I guess, was the thing that kids do now these days. Uh, and it's mind boggling to me. And it's also interesting to me how much of our entertainment now is literally worse than when I was growing up. We had Jackass, and I thought that was the stupidest shit ever. It's a show where people get paid to what, kick each other in the nuts and jump off of high things and do just the stupidest shit, hurting yourselves ever. Like, now we've got these IRL streamers that just go around being nuisances on society, irritating people for no reason, because people on the internet said, I'll give you $20 if you go like fucking throw something at them. Like, people commit crimes because people are giving them $5, $10 donations. Who does that? Like, and again, that comes back to we're cyborgs. We're not dependent on our technology for our entertainment. Apparently, people can't go sit down and enjoy staring at the pond for a few hours while they think about life. Apparently, I'm the only one that still does that shit. I'm the only person that sits down and meditates and thinks about things. I'm the only person that sits down and probes myself, thinking about what do I really feel about what's life going on. I know I'm not the only one, and those of you out there that do it, I hope you know what I mean, without feeling like I'm not allowing for you to be. Like, because you're you. Don't let me tell you what you do or don't experience ever. Not now, not ever. Don't let anybody tell you what you are, who you are, what you experience. Don't, never allow that. But 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 it just feels so lonely to be on a genuine search for truth, because truth seems to be hard to find today. And it's our technology. Well, and I guess that pretty much wraps it up. There's a lot there. Sorry, I guess this one's gone on. I enjoy pondering about this topic. I could probably ponder so much more and ramble so much more, and maybe I will in the future. But But think about your technology. Think about how it's affecting you. Think about how it changes you, how it expands you, how maybe it diminishes you. Um, and and think about these things because I don't know if we don't keep thinking about our situation and we don't keep finding ways to be better, um, we're gonna lose the things that got us here. And then what's gonna happen? What are we gonna do if we get to the point to where we're so dependent on technology that we can't go outside and work on our cars anymore? What are we gonna do when we're so dependent on technology that we don't know how to deal with our plumbing or our own electrical systems or like I don't know, maybe I think a lot of people out there today already don't have any skills. I have the fortune of either being old enough or just being lucky enough that my dad was a mechanic. We worked on our own house. I know how to build houses. I know how to run electricity. I know how, like, I don't know everything. I couldn't do commercial work, there are probably limits to, things that I could do safely, but I can work on cars, or at least I used to. I can work up to cars up until about 2000. Before, after that, they're all computers, and I really just haven't. I got to the point where I started paying people to work on my cars, even though I had to do it. When I was young, I knew how to do it, and there were hardly anything. And most things were vacuum tubes back then, rather than computers, and it was done more with a vacuum system than and now it's more electronic. Um, but but I know how to work on those older cars. I'd imagine some of it applies to modern cars, but the computers and all of that, that's something that I'd have to learn completely new. But I'd probably still be able to change brake pads. I mean, I can change brake. I mean, like things like brake pads, I've still changed. Like just a couple of years ago, I changed, somebody's brake pads for them. But these are skills that I just people when I say that I can do these things, people tend to be in awe of it. And maybe it's because I am in a different part of the country now. I grew up in the Midwest. We grew up rurally, and yeah, you there was no shop, and how would you get your tractor there anyway? Like you go out there and you fix it or it rusts out in your field. That's how that works where I come from because there's nobody coming to save you. There's no like tow trucks don't come for tractors. Like mechanics don't work on tractors. That's like you're a farmer, fucking fix your shit. Like um and so we have to be careful that if we choose the cyborg route, is the cyborg route going to help us perpetuate the skill set that we need in order for society to continue to function? Because if everybody's dependent on technology for everything, what would happen if that technology failed? Imagine if the internet failed. How many things would you be unable to do today? I wouldn't be able to go somewhere new without navigation. I like I I don't have the resources to deal with some of the things I would need to do. Well, I guess that would be more if the power failed, but still, I mean, I guess the same argument holds true for any technology, any of our infrastructure, anything that we've become dependent on. That's kind of a that's kind of a thing. How many of us would die if the sewage system failed today? If just right now the sewage system failed, toilets everywhere stopped flushing. How many of us would die in that? Because what? You keep trying to crap in your toilet for as long as you can until it overflows. Then what? Well, what? You scoop it out and throw it out back and throw it into the ground and poison all of our drinking water in the runoff. If everybody does that, we're just going to end up with poison drinking water. We're all going to end up with E. coli and dysentery and cholera, like we did before we understood sewage systems. We're all going to die of these diseases that come out of our buttholes. And it's because of our dependence on technology without a basic understanding or mechanism with which to operate that technology ourselves. And and that's a frightening problem that we need to face, our dependence on technology. Um, Anyway, I suppose that's enough terrifying thoughts. I've probably scared the crap out of the average person or talked over the head of everybody else. I don't know. I doubt anybody really made it this far. Probably a topic super niche to me, and I suppose I'm sorry for running on about it for 45 minutes, it would seem. Um, but I think it's fascinating. I think it's important because this is, it's just the kind of thing that I could see. Contributing to a rapid reshaping of society should something serious enough fail. And if you don't think it's possible, you should read up on the Carrington Event and what it might do to the modern day power grid and what it might do to computer systems and data centers and whatnot. If you think that the world couldn't just suddenly have all of the information turned off, then what you don't realize is the sun has the power to throw geomagnetic storms at us that have the ability to basically start the worldwide, all of the grid systems in the world could conceivably basically be started on fire with a severe enough solar flare. Uh, that's not likely. It would have to be pointed at us. It would have to come from the sun. It would have to be timed just right from the right part of the sun. But the last time we had this was like 150 years ago. We were just getting telegraph off the ground. Telegraph systems burned up, started on fire. There were some places that had like electrical infrastructure during the Carrington event, and that had there were things that started on fire, failed, like wires, just coils of wires would spontaneously combust in these conditions because um, it's a high amount of energy, a high amount of electromagnetic energy, and the thing about that is electromagnetic energy gets turned into electricity when it hits metal, and that's all our grid is a whole bunch of metal for transferring electricity. And so if you have the power that we're putting into the power lines, and then you have a huge amount of magnetic energy move across those power lines get overloaded. And as we all know, if anybody who's plugged in up, and used too much power, it just melts through the exterior coating, and the wire starts on fire, and it burns. Now, in most settings, it's not the end of the world, because if, like, I've seen this happen on an RC car one time, and it melted the insulation around the wire, and then it melted through the wire, and there was just maybe a couple dozen strands of wire just kind of rotated together in that. But that's not how the grid is made. It's not these little tiny wires that are going to disintegrate when they get overloaded. They're going to start on fire, and the metal's going to burn. You're going to be seeing burning fire when that happens. The metal wires strung all through the grid, they will start on fire. And they will probably be able to hold their tension and continue to increase that current as the storm continues hitting it. And it will create so much energy that it will start that on fire. But because they're huge, huge, huge wires, uh, they're not just going to snap and interrupt the power flow and whatnot all at once. They're going to start on fire. And all you need is for one or two of the trees that they're near to start on fire every couple of miles, and you've got half the fucking world on fire in 5 minutes. That's it. That's all you would need. And you could literally have a worldwide global fire while the electrical grid is burning. That's a very serious possibility. Like, literally, I'm terrified of the Carrington event. If there's one natural disaster that I think would topple society faster than any other, it's probably that, because it could be worldwide. Now, chances are it'll hit maybe a continent or two, and it will take those down, and the rest of the world will be like affected with like some blackouts or some transformers blowing or whatever. But it won't hit the full brunt. It might only hit on like one side of the earth or something. Um, but still, that would be devastating. Imagine if all of Europe just lost power, internet, anything electrical, just started on fire. Cars would spontaneously start on fire because of the coils of wire in the alternator. Electric cars that start on fire faster because they got motors at each of the tires, most of them. Like these coils of wires, they're gonna be the worst for this. Like anything that's a coil of wire, a tight coil of wire, the little blocks you've got plugged into the wall, those things are just gonna fucking pop. They're gonna start on fire in a Carrington event. That's how you'll know what you're up against. Is those things will probably go first. Those little blocks that plug into your wall, they have a coil of wire in them, and that's part of one of the ways things that they do to control the electricity and change the power coming out of your wall into the phone. But so if you think that we aren't cybernetic, consider what would happen if the internet went down. Like just think about that. What would you be able to do? Your phone no longer works. There is no phone, there is no internet, there is no Google, there is no AI to ask about anything. There's no YouTube to get the instructions on how to clear that clog anymore. All of that is just inaccessible. You cannot get to it. And that's why you should care and think about how much of a cyborg you are and have an understanding of what you would be up against should a world like that ever happen. Because that's like even in times of war, electricity is usually a high target, and it's because of these reasons. It's we understand in war that infrastructure is so critical to people's existence. We can kill them by killing their infrastructure without actually having to shoot at anyone. We can just blow up their shit that they run on and just let most of the people die out in the chaos that ensues. Just because you can't start get rid of your human waste, you can't get rid of your things, you can't communicate anymore, you can't live comfortably. You have to spend more resources trying to survive because you need to worry about heat because it's not just on the power grid anymore to turn on your heater. These things matter and they're terrifying, and I think that's one of the reasons people don't think about stuff like this, because it's difficult. It's difficult to wonder what would happen if the world were to really fall apart. What if there really was a disaster capable of destroying the entire world? And I think that's one of the candidates. I think that's one of the things, and I guess that's why I think it matters. Um, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed pondering with me the idea of cyborgs, pondering the ideas, exploring some of the reasons it may happen. Anyway, I enjoyed the discussion. So I guess if you've made it here, maybe you like me enough that it's worth a like and a subscribe. Maybe it's worth a downvote because you never thought I got anywhere. I don't know. Feel free to leave me a comment, tell me your thoughts, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next one.